gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the fucking show.
So,
I think I got closer that time. I think I did get closer that time.
actually, you just about nailed it. You were only about a second from the actual last beat.
I hadn't been planning what I was going to say, so my brain had to kick in.
No. Well, that's hard to do sometimes, right?
Yeah. So, Rick, who do we have with us tonight?
Anyways, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you listening on audio, we have a very handsome man here who has adopted the outfit of Wicket W. Warrior. Cannot remember his name. Ewok from Return of the Jedi. Which never happened.
Wicket?
Jedi never happened.
Oh, is this a
Beard Grizzly, ladies and gentlemen, the Savage Beard Grizzly.
Was that a Star Wars reference, by the way?
I
do that.
I think
sometimes.
so.
Okay.
Wait a minute. For those that are on from Focus Fire Chat, that means we just made a Disney reference. It's a running gag. Moving on.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, the 3 or 4 people that might see this are going to be lost. So, all right. So, Beard, who are you in the Destiny community, and where would people know you from?
Well, you might know me most from just my Twitter account of recent. No, I'm kidding. I have a YouTube channel, Beard_Grizzly. I am a lore content creator. I'm hoping to branch out further than just Destiny for this point. However, Destiny is definitely the main focus, and has been for quite some time. So that being said, no topic has kind of been too small for me to cover. And Destiny 2 has been, especially with Forsaken, just a wealth of things to cover and look into. But short version, yeah, I'm a Destiny content creator who focuses heavily on the lore aspect of everything.
Okay. So, Rick, I hope you don't mind if I ask a couple of questions here, because this guy's got me very interested in what he does.
Mm-hmm.
So,
No, man, if you are into Destiny lore and you do not know who Beard is, you are doing fucking internet wrong. I just want to throw that out there.
so well, I saw Rick dropped in the Twitter DMs this week. He dropped in the link to your channel, and
Right.
I mean, literally, it has been playing since he dropped that in for me. I've just been like, holy shit, like, and so what I wanted to ask you, doing what you do with lore,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to know, like, a little bit of a deep dive on your process. Like, I kind of assume, Rick's a content creator. I am not. I bring no usable skill to the Destiny community whatsoever. But I assume for Rick, basically he comes home, he gets, a couple of bottles out, gets really drunk, hits record on his laptop, screams a bunch of shit, and the next thing you know, we have a new video from him. Is that close?
I'm drunk way before I get home.
Okay. All right. So I kind of want to know, like, what is the process? Because you guys, I don't think it's very fair how the lore gets to you. It seems like you guys have to put puzzle pieces on top of puzzle pieces. I kind of imagine, like, this big, like, detective room in a police department where they have, like, the strings going from picture to picture to picture. Like, how the fuck do you piece all this together and do what you do and come out with something usable on the other end?
Well, I'll show you what I, of course, had started with early on, but I have books upon books upon books that I have that are all handwritten. I do a lot of course, pre-production research and whatnot into each topic that I am thinking of. And then from there, it kind of just comes down to thinking about what pieces kind of fit together from reading everything. Because that's the biggest thing, is needing to have a memory that is big enough to at least hold something in there to be like, oh yeah, wasn't this like somewhere in Rasputin's logs or something like that?
Right.
Part of that would be nearly impossible, however, if it was not for a single website. That website is called ishtar/collective.net. These guys deserve all the plugs in the world. They do this for just if you decide to do any Patreon or something, like that's all that they do. It's completely free of charge, and anybody can go there to reference it. But it's a word search game, basically. You type in something you're thinking about. If you know that Eris said something, for instance, you type in Eris Morn, you bring something up, and there we have it. That's the main idea, main aspect overall. Just trying to find where those puzzle pieces kind of fit. Then it still comes down to looking into word choice and how character development kind of lends itself, or how some things sort of manage, etc. And then it comes down to the other piece of it, which is, well, how much is scientific work, or how much is looking into things that could be perceived or benefited from understanding the inspirations for where that comes from. For instance, I'll give a small preview to what I'm working on now. The topic I will not give away, but it does go back to something where these guys are saying that things are like lighting up blue. And I'm sitting here going, okay, what would light up blue? But at the entry previous, you find out that there is radiation signals that are all over the place with this. So my keywords there are blue radiation, which led me to Cherenkov radiation. That's how sometimes it can end up being. It's just a matter of seeing what you can kind of pull from it, picking out keywords and clues. It's all context. It's all related that way. And then it just comes back to saying, well, wait a minute. This was referenced like 20 years ago in this grimoire, or something related to it. And that's basically where all of it comes from. It's just the incessant ramblings of a madman, mixed with a bunch of way too much memory, and mixed with understanding things that are kind of stupid overall, because it is just a game, and I take it almost a little too seriously. That's really what it comes down to.
Okay. Well, damn, you answered a lot of the questions that I had prepared. So the last thing I guess I'll ask.
He's never been asked any of this before.
Right? No, he's never had to think about this at all. The last thing I really want to know, what is the biggest what the fuck question that's still left out there, or what are a couple of the biggest what the fucks are you still like waiting? So Rick apparently has an answer.
I was going to say, Rick, go ahead. I'm curious on your thought on this one.
I don't. How is Ada in the tower?
Actually comes back to several pieces, because it goes back with the raid. Besides, at this point, I have, because why not? Let me just keep talking about different things that I want to bring out all the time here. The thing that I'm starting to realize is that the Vanguard as a whole have no idea what's happening in the city. Just none whatsoever. And the way that overall it seems like they're handling things kind of presents itself as saying there's like 50 different things we could piece from to say that the Vanguard don't care. The Great Catastrophe that happened on Luna, for instance, they haven't really referenced that all that often. They try not to even remember it. There's no memorial, etc. So, long answer to your question, they have no idea what's happening in the city, because all they've cared about is the tower. That's it. They don't give a crap for anything else. And now we have a raid that happens in the broken down shambles of our city as it is. So for answering the question, the like biggest questions overall that are there, they'd honestly be kind of like lore specific or lore minor in a lot of ways. One thing I've had questions on is if the Sunbreakers on Mercury are still alive or not. We know of Oros and a few others that are out there that seemingly are dead and gone, but we don't know if that was the entire order or if it was just the band that was with Oros. We don't know about Firebreak Titans and if they're still kind of like out and about and doing their thing, or if most of that died off as well during some of the escapades that happened during, especially during like Red Campaign and everything. I don't know. I think it's just the biggest thing, if anything, of course, is still are there Ahamkara and what's the nine? Those are still the main things that haven't realistically been answered too much yet. Just like little bits and pieces to kind of bring up now and again, but that's it. And of course, the overarching question, which I still think they're sort of showcasing, is the darkness, of course, because they wanted to keep that away from Destiny 2 as a whole. Uh, but they're leaving hints. They're definitely showcasing some interesting hints. So those are my. If I have to pick three, those will be my big three. But I think they're pretty much on like every lore person's list at this point. Like if Riven was the only Ahamkara that's left over, since there seem to be several others that could be alive. The darkness and what it is, and then of course the nine as well. Just what that entirely curtails to and what it is.
If you've never been exposed to Beard or the Focus Fire Chat, the podcast that he's on, if you're into lore, I mean, Deep Dive is a completely different. It's a different level. What they get into is like, so if you just jump in and you don't really know and you haven't gone back and caught up in episodes, you go in cold, you're gonna understand what they're saying, but it's like a continuing rolling conversation. So they'll reference things that they've discussed 100 times, but if you're not caught up on it, you're just like, fuck does that mean? So you really have to almost go back to the beginning to catch up, because it's also the lore's not changing, but getting filled in as we go.
So
Well,
what I'm hearing is you guys figured out how to monetize your podcast from day one.
I don't think they've done that.
That's actually something to sort of touch base on with what Rick just said too. The problem that I face as well with creating lore content, I know FFC has this problem as well. Where do we draw the line to say, I need to talk about this stuff, but I need to also figure that there is a layer of understanding with the audience that I'm presenting to. And in a lot of content, you're going to have this. In a lot of storytelling, you're going to have this as well. But I feel with the way that Destiny's lore has been developing, it's gotten worse, like way worse. With all the stuff that's out there, you're talking 3 years worth of information that you have to kind of peruse through. And it's hard for me to say, like, how much do I have to just say, this is the quick blurb about this person and thing that had happened, versus going in complete and utter detail on it, like every time I might have to bring it up, which in some cases of recent has been consistently. There is so much old stuff that they're starting to reference again. It's very difficult to know when to draw that line.
When you say it's gotten way worse, do you mean it's gotten way worse from like a writing perspective, or it's just gotten way worse because there's so much more information that's there?
That,
Just
yeah, definitely the latter. There's just so much information.
Okay.
The writing's gotten much better. Like they've been able to sit back and sort of piece out things. They've explained things a lot better. I would say since Forsaken, especially. And my overall an overarching thought with Destiny 2 to the Forsaken as a whole has kind of been, it is obvious when Bungie decides to put their writers in a corner and not do anything with them, and when they just tell the writers, go and have at it. It is obvious where that line kind of meshes or is, and what I'm kind of, I know I might be skirting the topic on the other spots we want to talk about tonight, but I'm hoping as we go into the future with Bungie that doesn't happen again, where they understand that the writers need to be kind of just unleashed and they have a vision and that is it. Because the Grimoire originally was how they did storytelling very well. And it's their measure of being able to tell a story. It's not for everybody. Not all stories are for everybody, and I think that that needs to be understood very heavily. Same with backstory. Backstory versus lore versus history. Some things are more interesting and intriguing to others. Not everything is going to interest you on a heavy level. There are people out there, to take example, that are purely into the lore thanks to the Shadows of Yore, The Last Word, Thorn, Dredge and Yore, that line. They could give a crap less for everything else within the lore. But that specific segment, That's what they're there for.
Okay.
Well, this is a good segue into our first topic of tonight.
So,
You know, let's break protocol. So, whenever me and Beard speak, if I'm not drinking heavily, or he has conversations with people where he's a guest on the podcast, he's a lore master. He really is. He's up there with the big guys, and he always gets rabbit holed into talking about lore because that's his thing. So I wanted specifically to not do that to him, but we fucked that up already. So that's
I do that to myself. Let's
Well,
be honest.
to be
we're gonna have
fair,
some
I didn't ask you a question about the lore. I asked you how you put it together. I mean, if you want to cut, you want to cut it.
It's a complete It's like asking me what's your favorite word? I mean,
Well, we know it's fucker or motherfucker.
so, I mean, it's just a downward spiral from there. But okay, so let's go and segue into our first topic of this evening. And I don't want to dwell on this very long, obviously, because we could go on about this an hour by itself. The Bungie Vision divorce.
So
I invented that phrase. I'm claiming it. I'm copyrighted.
I got to tell you this story. So I talk to Rick on the phone probably 3 times a week on average, and generally the first thing out of his mouth when he calls or I call, he's like, "Hey, what's up?" Very polite, very normal. And he called me, 6 days ago? So was it Wednesday, right? I'm on a job. I'm not paying attention. And he goes, "Are you watching the meltdown on fucking Twitter right now?" Like, I haven't been on Twitter in 2 hours because, like I said, I was on a job. He goes, "I think the internet has finally lost its fucking mind."
Well,
and he starts telling me about all this, about the thing. And I jump onto Twitter, and it's just a massive string of text. Like,
this is what happened. So it was over the course of 36 hours, let's call it.
Mm-hmm.
So you had Niobi App Labs was released, which we're going to come back to that. And then Niobi Apps was opened up, which we're going to come back to that. And everyone is losing their mind. They were losing their mind before it opened up, and then they were losing their mind after it opened up.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden, the announcement came from Bungie, we're splitting with Activision. And everyone forgot all about that shit.
Right.
Instantaneously. The Messiah has arrived. But me personally, just so I can kind of steer where we're going with this, I don't think there's going to be any significant changes to anything anytime soon, because they've already built a roadmap. There's stuff that's already made. They're not going to throw it out the window, so they have to continue their natural progression.
Mm-hmm.
This will most definitely have a bigger impact if there is a Destiny 3, if they're going to continue and adopt a World of Warcraft type expansion. That's on them. It's 100% on them now. But I don't think things are going to change drastically anytime soon.
okay.
No. Yeah, I don't know. They have themselves set up for this point that I think the roadmap will, to kind of mirror what Rick's saying, will be followed. But I think ultimately what it's going to lead to is a rather big content drought, rather, because it's going to come down to how much they can effectively take with them. If they have rights to the Destiny franchise, does that also mean any new engine stuff that they may be building or have been working on, which they've been talking about a little bit now and again, and take that with them to wherever they are going with their new studios? Are they taking the same place that they have? I don't think they are, because they are holed up in Activision's spot right now. Just these kind of areas overall that need to be kind of considered. In addition, we are unsure what's going to happen with the NetEase investing that they had done a little bit ago, or that NetEase had thrown into Bungie. We're completely unsure what's going to develop from that, if it's going to be all mobile game related, if it's going to be like server construction or something, or if it's literally just, here's money and we'll give you a cut back on it, but that also means that they're back into the Activision type scenario all over again. These are the things that I kind of question overall as they kind of go into it. In addition, I I don't know if I'm with everybody that it's going to be a great thing. I think it's good when any developer is able to get away from a major publisher, especially at this point, with the way that it seems like a good majority of publishers have not exactly been great to the developers that work for them. I don't know. I could also still be way not over Visceral Games being shit canned by EA. I could be still completely miffed about that. But for me, that's like where I'm.
Really
Yeah, really. That's where I'm still kind of on the border. Like I know it's a good thing for Bungie moving forward because they can kind of admonish their own names, but how it's going to be for the game and for the consumer, and versus, of course, what it's going to be on the flip side, how it's going to be for them during either crunch or development of titles and so on. I worry about who's going to be working with them and how it's going to develop for them as well, and how many other people may end up losing their jobs, which might also be a partial problem. And granted, this time of year, of course, it's very easy to have people lose their jobs just because of looking at fourth quarter numbers and being like, well, I guess it's not going to post that well. I guess we didn't do a good job planning the rest of the year. It's just how things work.
And I don't know if this is a thing, but I know a little bit about the music business.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're a band, and okay, so you're a band, but you didn't write your own music. So you had a guy who wrote the songs. Well, the guy who writes the song is going to get paid.
Right.
You're the band who's performing it. The album, so you belong to a label, so the label gets a cut. The label will ultimately go to a distributor for all intents and purposes, a publisher, they get a cut. So by them basically going from hello to goodbye, we're going to write it, develop it, engineer it, and publish/distribute it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably picking up a lot of revenue that they were having to split before. So that could be a good thing, just from the outside looking in of what I know about different industries in general. So they're keeping more of their own revenue. So I don't know if it works that way, but it sounds good.
But the question would be how much revenue is still left to get because you're out of the holiday season. Microtransactions are kind of down. They've kind of done a job cutting that out. How many new sales do you think they're actually picking up starting now?
I was thinking more of like a re-release.
Okay.
So they're going to launch their own game, their own property. They're going to publish it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, if they outsource work, they're going to be splitting money there. But if you have a publisher, the publisher takes his cut. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. So.
But anyways, Ryan, you have any thoughts on that?
Too many, and I think it's been beaten to death to the point where, what am I going to say that nobody else has already thought of? I mean, I can tell you this. One thing I do appreciate about the Destiny community, I run a business where I build computers, and I've had people call me and start talking to me about Destiny lore while building a computer, and I'm going, they're not calling me because they want a computer, or they're not even calling me for tech support. They're literally calling me to talk about Activision and Bungie breaking up, and then they're talking about, what does this mean for lore? What does this mean for this? And I'm going, do I look like somebody or act like somebody who worked for Activision or Bungie? I'm like, what the hell? Like, I don't mind talking to you. Like, God bless you. Call me. We'll talk. But, it's just going to be a whole bunch of random bullshit that I can put together during this phone call. So, and I bet you I've had that call 30 times in the last 6 or 7 days.
People just know not to call me about that shit, apparently.
I mean, what I'm gathering is there's a lot of fuckers out there that want to talk. Like, I'm sitting here writing notes down, like, well, maybe they'll come on the podcast with us and talk. So,
let me tell you, working retail part-time, no, I will tell you that is the truth.
And people just like to talk and, put their 2 cents in, even though they're giving, there is no chain from here to Bungie. There's no, I don't have anybody's email address, so I'm not getting back to them to tell them what your thoughts are.
You're not going to tell us anyway.
I'm going to say, having a YouTube channel at 25,000, I have never had a Bungie representative, even look at me at this point. I have had, I think the only thing I ever had was like a couple interactions on Twitter with a couple of them. Uh, and even then, they are so like minute that they wouldn't even be called interactions in an official capacity. And the amount of people that are like, "Oh my God, Beard, you know everything. What's going to happen with lore?" I'm just like, I don't friggin' know. Let me tell you something. I didn't know what they were doing in Destiny 2. I sure as hell don't know what they're doing now.
So, somebody over in the chat says, "So you don't have any relatives who work for Bungivision?" And no.
Only Mylan, just Mylan, former CEO of Activision.
So, well, I have yet to meet
right.
the man, or talk to him.
Oh, we'll get him on one day.
Okay.
But so let's get into the Niobi Labs controversy. So, all right, we're gonna may have to fill in the blanks for each other because basically, me and Ryan were here with Elmer Fudd last week, and I was like, okay, well, this happened today. Did you see what happened? No. This is before we realized the thing didn't work. It's like, no, I didn't get to see any of it. I didn't get to see any of it. I didn't get to see any of it. It's a puzzle. Cool. So then nobody watched any of it because it was a total fucking meltdown. So it's like, well, I can just read about it now.
Yep.
But basically, unless I am completely wrong, so it came out, it's a 7-level puzzle, of which they've been collecting clues all through the forges, and I'm imagining some other areas because there's only 3 forges and there's like 7 layers. Who knows, but whatever.
This is stuff we would know if we actually played.
I'm not ever fucking doing that. I'm just letting you know that right now. Not unless they built something like this where they need a Titan to jump around the back and kill ads. I'm not doing this, but that's just me. But apparently one of the clues was not in the game. Is that correct?
Apparently a string of code was missing or something is the report that I heard back. So one of the clues wasn't showing up, or it wasn't showing up correctly.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
there was
anyway.
a piece of the puzzle I know that was completely screwed. They had no way that they could have actually solved it without it.
Which is an oversight.
Which
It was a minor oversight on their part. Okay, so I'm just gonna throw what I have to say out there, and you guys go because I have like a part of my brain shut down. And I just kind of like stopped reading shit after a while. This is the only thing I can relate it to. Many years ago, when Rick was a young man, Rick was a dungeon master in a game called Dungeons and Dragons. I never wanted to be one. I filled in one day, and people just said, "You need to do it again. You do it again." And I used to build dungeons, and to the point to where my dungeons were revered and reviled. Like, we never did the dungeons. And they would have to ask, like, "Do we need to do a dungeon?" I'm like, "Bro, you really want to do one of my dungeons?" And they're like, "Not really, but yeah, we really want to." Because they were basically what raids were before they were games with raids. So when I built a dungeon, it's like, okay, guys, we're going to do a dungeon. We're going to do it next month. So you got time to build up your characters, prepare. What's it about? No idea. But there was a narrative story that led that you had to have a reason to go into the dungeon. Because why would you go into a death trap made by me unless there was a reason to either go there or something to get out of it?
Mm-hmm.
So we would do the thing. So with Niobi Labs, I guess the carrot at the end of the string was unlocking the 4th forge.
Mm-hmm. There was also an emblem and a ghost and a couple other things I think involved with it, which are still obtainable at this point if you go and do the puzzle. But that's the whole concept behind it. Yeah, it was to unlock the forge for everybody, which is effectively the same thing of what had happened with the raid from Forsaken, the Dreaming City raid when that opened up. We were supposed to do a couple things, and then it was supposed to like flip around, and it was supposed to be community involvement. Supposedly that's going to be the same thing in both Joker's Wild and Penumbra, We're not unsure, obviously, to what effect, but I am sure they're going to take some overall liberties and think about how they presented this one, just to ensure that everybody's kind of like on the same page. Uh, Problem I've had with it the entire time, because I've asked so many people on this question, like, what is it that bothered you about Niobi Labs so much? And they were like, well, just better communication, that it needed to be done this way, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sitting there going, so you're telling me that if they never announced this forge at all, and they left this puzzle completely in the game, just unlocked at one point, just to go like, hey, here's this, there's a thing that's going on, we hope you guys can find it, like they've done in the past, then nobody would have been salty or cared. That's what I'm hearing.
Like Outbreak Prime.
Basically.
Or Whisper, right? Isn't that kind of how Whisper came around?
Exactly how Whisper came around. But then everybody's argument was, well, this is something that's extra, or this is something that's like part of the main story, part of the main game, part of like this ending idea that's here, or part of the story. And I still countered and I said, that's great and all, but you're talking that effectively we've had some other story elements that have still like been behind these ideas. Honestly, like Outbreak Prime had a couple of story elements that were linked behind it. Nothing incredibly major, of course. Or in addition to that, you're saying that we could have just left Ada alone with being able to have the Obsidian Accelerator capacity given back to her. Wouldn't have mattered. And all that the Forge realistically gives you is the capability to go in and forge, well, of course there's the couple exotics, but they could have just had those dropped from the other forges anyway. But to like do one forge and have all your weapon frames done at one time. That's what it adds in the capability for. The outrage and the salt was lost on me. I did not understand it whatsoever, even from like the major components that were saying like, well, it just needs to be it being hidden behind this puzzle is just bad overall for like allowing us to do anything with it, and I cannot be like further on the other side whatsoever. I'm used to seeing puzzles like this put into a bunch of different games. I'm used to playing other MMOs that have this stuff that occurs behind like puzzles or little pieces inside the environment and etc. The salt was completely lost on me.
Brian?
I haven't seen it, so I really don't have a lot to say. I haven't gotten a chance to run it yet. The only thing I can get behind is the anger that I've heard from a lot of people that it was broken, and that clue thing was a big thing. You know, and then after, what was it, 24 hours, they announced they're just going to open it. You know, they're just going to let you go in, and they hadn't still been completed yet. Nobody had figured it out. And from a studio like Bungie, I think that's almost unacceptable. And that's really about the only thing I can say on the whole matter, because like I said, I still haven't tried it.
Wow. I mean, I love the puzzle aspects of games. Like, not necessarily. I don't like the way they're executed in this game personally. Like, I stand here and I shoot something. But like other role-playing games where there's puzzles involved, I love a complicated puzzle. I appreciate the amount of work that went into setting this whole thing up, because somebody sat down and had all the strings on the board.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna put a butterfly here. I appreciate all of that. I love that shit. I love building that shit. I love writing that shit. I love playing that shit. But when I go back to, okay, if the reward for doing this, which everyone could have done, would have been like an exotic. Like, okay, you have to do this because okay, so the first people figure it out, and then everybody else goes watch a YouTube video, and he comes back and duplicates it and gets their exotic. I'm cool with that, but that's something that's not really. I understood. It was like, okay, well, this is something we can't play until somebody somewhere solves this. Well, if it would have taken a month to solve it, everything would have completely imploded. If it were something that was on the side. Let's just say it was just a little room that wasn't even brought up, and it was just there. It's like there's something to this, and you might or might not get something. We're not even going to talk about it. It's over here. It's over here. The game's still going this way, but this is over here. That would have been fine as well. You mentioned the obsidian accelerator. I don't think I should talk about that on the air because that pisses me off. After I do all the forges, I can now build weapons that helps me do all the forges.
So now I want to know about the obsidian.
It's a part that you get, that there's a part of Ada that's lost. You give it to her, and she makes weapons, and then she can augment your weapons to give you bonus damage in the forge, which I've already done all of these, and probably all of my weapons now. Why do I care? I'm just, if I could augment my weapon, I could do more damage everywhere, I would care. Because I'm immediately going to bring it into crucibles. Oh wait, that's probably why I can't do that. Never mind. I'll answer my own question.
I mean, I could see it being allowed in like open world combat and everything versus just the crucible. It's obvious they have means that they could turn that stuff on and off with a switch. It's just a toggle and a lot of rights. But that being said, no, I'll agree to that measure. But we still have Wish 15, and we still have a couple of other things that are completely unsolved at this point. Question, of course, is if they're even in the game at this point or not, though, too.
They may be missing a string of code.
Right. I'm going to say it could be something like that. That's where I don't think Bungie is, like, that terrible off that they wouldn't have continued to give hints back and forth. I remember the Owl Sector business that was going on, of course, back before Rise of Iron came out. And they started to just release those different booklets basically over the course of the week leading up to Rise of Iron. They had the event that was going on as well. Everybody was trying to figure out how to make the transmission virus spread from Guardian to Guardian. And there just seemed like there was no clear way on how to do it. So there were just constant measures to have people to try to figure this out. In addition, there was something else that was going on alongside of that was inside of the game that will never be accessible again, and I can't remember exactly what it was. But there were those things that did exist previously as well. Again, I think they would have just given a hint out as time went on, but instead just said, nah, you know what, we're going to just open this up entirely. Which opened up the other can of worms, which was all the time and hard work that went in to the guys that were trying to solve it for us to open it up. It's just like, you could probably give these guys a pretty good hint, and they'd get it. So what's going on here that you just can't do that? So I don't know. That's my contention with them just completely opening it up. But I am also somebody for artist or writer's intention versus something that is going to absolutely just like make somebody say, well, yay, now I have the thing, and I guess the thing is over. I'm too much about the journey, I suppose.
The question that pops into my head is, why does it necessarily matter when that final forge opened up for everybody? If it's 12 hours, 8 hours, 24 hours, 2 weeks after, that puzzle became available. I mean, unless you are the person, and I'm sure it happened, that dies literally the next day, you're going to have it the rest of your life in the games. Why does it matter if you can't get to it for a couple of days? What's the... I understand, the argument of, I bought the game, I want all the content. I understand, I've heard that a lot. It's time gated or whatever, but does it really matter? Because now it's open for everyone. And did getting it a day early or 2 days early really make that much of a difference to you?
Why even tell anybody there was a fourth forge? We had no idea until...
That's exactly what I said. Like, if they didn't say a thing, it would have been fine.
Right.
It'd have been like, well, what's this all about?
Yeah.
There's a fourth one?
Then all of a sudden it becomes a different mystery all entirely. Like, at that point, it's completely different. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess I just don't understand the impatience and the whole thing. But
Well, that comes down to completely different social issues that we don't really need to bring up on this podcast. But moving
Bring
on.
that shit up.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it now. Like, there's there's way too much entitlement when it comes down to gaming to begin with. But we have seen now two instances of how things could be gated or worked with. We had the Niobi Lab scenario where it's puzzle derivative gate off. And then in the beginning of Black Armory, which everybody seems to have forgotten really fast, go figure because people's memories are pretty overall lacking when all was said and done, where you had the power gaps that existed, where people couldn't get into the forge literally because they lacked power for a couple of days. And then all of a sudden, most of the heavier ones that were in there were in at 6:30, and I myself was clearing it, I think, the week after, because I had a really bad had some stuff that was going on that week anyway. Uh, so for me, it didn't really matter if I could get in first day or not. I knew I needed to power a little bit more up. Uh, and that's specifically what was told to us to begin with, was that it was end game content. So for me, I would need to be closer to end game light level or end game reward level, etc. So that's where my contention would kind of come in. Bungie has effectively shown that the community is not happy, no matter which way we go, with either a puzzle gating or power gating. And that's the thing that really kind of makes my brain go, what do they do? They can't make anybody happy, apparently.
The only thing they can do is put you in the raid upon release day at the end with the most overpowered weapon in the game, and you can just shoot and kill it. That's about the only thing they can do to make everybody happy.
Basically, just hand them the loot, which is basically what happened with World of Warcraft, and why I think that is just a straight dumpster fire at this point. Continuously handing people loot in that right doesn't really solve any kind of problems. All it does overall is make it feel like there is less progression involved with the character that you may care about, and moreover, a focus in just, well, I need this specific piece of gear to be in any way functional. I've been down that road. I don't need to go down that road whatsoever ever again. And I'm more appreciative of the way that they're doing it now.
Let me ask you guys this. I mean, do you feel that it's absolutely necessary that we have to have a power increase with every new release of content?
For
every single one.
For some people, that is their drive to continuously get up to the next level.
Oh, up where?
But then, unfortunately, you get those people that are like, well, I'm not power capped in 2 days, so I can't do the content at this point that I want to do, which comes back to the impatience metric and whatnot. That's just... It's a whole cyclical conversation and argument that we can have.
Like, I remember I played Warcraft.
Yeah.
A long, long time ago.
Yeah, that game's, what, 11 years old or whatever now?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But I think the last I played, I think the level cap was 50.
Mm-hmm.
And we were level 50 forever, still playing new shit and still having difficulty with it. It wasn't difficult because there was a huge power gap. It was difficult because I had 500 ads to deal with at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So the actual construction of the battle arena was difficult.
Right.
And how you had to get through it, you had to have someone in your party that could do X. So, because if you didn't have a healer, it didn't matter what you had on you, you were all going to die. If you didn't have a tank, they were just going to get rolled over. If you didn't have a tank to absorb the damage from the glass cannon in the back, you were going to get rolled over. You couldn't walk in with 8 glass cannons. So the design was different of it, but I mean, I would still be playing that if I didn't have like a wife and kids and a job and a house and a mortgage, car notes.
I mean, arguably, that's what they're trying to do with character level versus gear score or power level in this case. But I still think that the implementation of power level and how it is done is effectively lost on those that are just looking for a looter shooter, which is really what it feels like they're kind of more leaning towards. That's where I wonder if like a Borderlands scenario would almost be better off for them. Just that they almost cast out the idea of anything but levels and just go from there. But I could be also completely wrong. Uh, I feel like the ideas that they're leaning for more than anything are more towards that looter shooter environment.
So, the the question I hear a lot is: Are video games getting easier? I hear that not just in Destiny, but just overall. Does it feel like video games to you guys are just getting easier?
Let me tell you, going back and playing through the original Legend of Zelda, or Mario Brothers 3, or any of the older NES titles, heck, going back and playing Battlezone, or also going back to and then I go to maybe the bridging point, if you will, with like the Super Nintendo, because I've been all over the place lately with that exact question in mind, believe it or not. It's a mix. At least to me, it's a bit of a mix. And what that mix comes down to is we didn't have very good technology back in the day to allow for ease of controls, nor did we have any availability in terms of like graphical depth or anything like that. When I started playing Mega Man X, that game was probably one of the hardest games I'd ever played at that point. Or when I played Mega Man 2, I had the same exact thought. If we're going to keep along with the Mega Man train, that's you start to kind of adapt to the way that the game plays out. And I would almost argue to say that the market is oversaturated with how games feel because we're very used to how some of those titles should be. For instance, I cannot play a lot of other shooting games at this point because they do not feel like Destiny. If I go and play Call of Duty, it doesn't feel like the guns are quite as tight as what I would hope for in a shooter at this point. But that is my opinion. And in that respect, I think that is where the idea of ease kind of comes into. You're used to it because you know how a shooter plays. But then all of a sudden, oh, it doesn't feel like I want to, so I'm just going to rage quit it and just say it's too easy and move on. I've had that happen several times with people that are like, well, it's just too easy. I'm like, is it too easy, or you just didn't want to like get used to it because you played it and beat it on the easiest difficulty? Now what's the next thing you want to do with it?
That's the thing.
Because that's my other argument that'll kind of get flagged into it. I've so recently Sega put Vanquish. I don't know if either of you gentlemen are familiar with that title on PC on Steam, and I've told several people, yeah, go play it. It's a great freaking game. They had it on sale for like $6 over both winter and summer sales. And they're like, well, I beat it on like easy, so what now? I'm like, what do you mean what now? Go play it on the harder difficulties. Like, come on. And then I show.
Games.
Oh yeah, exactly what I mean.
Yeah, well, you got to like what was the Death March level at the difficulty?
Oh,
like you knew you picked it because just the logo. Like
I mean,
Legendary
was legendary. I think.
Let me tell you something. You want to talk about a delta in a game? If someone spit on your foot, you fucking die.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say, and the same thing can be said of some other titles that are out there. Not to plug them, because they don't really need any plugs or anything like that. Not that I know them, but other content creator locals for me, the guys over at Cinemassacre. I don't know if you guys know, like James and Mike Mondays or the Angry Video Game Nerd. But those guys have been around for a long time. And one series that I really like that they started doing, they started playing the old Castlevania game. The old Castlevania, rather, on NES. And they had said, well, here's a challenge to see like how far we can go in this. And they're like, we can't use the whip. The entire stage, until you get to the boss. So in my mind, I'm sitting here going, oh God, I know exactly how Castlevania is. Why would you ever want to come up with something like this? What in your right mind says play Castlevania without the whip? This sounds like the worst idea in history.
Is that
And
like the only thing you had was the whip?
yeah, you had that, and then of course like some of your hard abilities and whatnot, like the cross or the stop time and everything. They couldn't use any of those. They couldn't use any powers. And of course, technically, when you get to the boss, you have the lowest level whip. You also have no sub weapons because you can't whip at the candlesticks. You have nothing. So it's like one of these ridiculous challenges that don't make any sense, that shouldn't be feasible or possible. But they got through like 3 levels, and it was a lot of fun watching them do it. But I'm coming from a completely different age of gaming, it seems, from where I start to notice some of those that are otherwise on that are talking about like things needing to be unlocked or like patience and so on. It's just a completely different level. I feel like.
Do you guys remember at the end of D1 the Destiny challenge? There's other names where you'd play Guardian. What's that?
Absolutely did it. The permadeath.
Permadeath. Yeah.
Yeah, Sazio did permadeath and got all the way up to max level on his Titan.
What Beard was describing sounded like a way worse idea than even the permadeath. So.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, that just sounds awful from every standpoint you can possibly think of it. I mean, well, being the spectator watching it, I mean, that would be a lot of fun, but going through it.
I'm going to say actually doing it, oh. Yeah, that's where everybody's just like, well, if I want a hard game, I'll go play Dark Souls. Huh? Like there's other hard games that exist. Let me just inform you.
There's other hard games that exist that have controls that work.
Yeah, exactly.
I fucking said it.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right.
Oh, God. I guess we kind of covered our next topic. What are your thoughts on Black Armory? I mean, we covered all that shit, apparently.
I mean, the only thing I really want... The only thing that I would really throw into it would be, I absolutely love the lore. I think that the Black Armory stuff is actually more interesting than anything that we found through either Curse of Osiris, House of Wolves,
That's not hard.
or the.
That's not hard. Come on.
No, but topping like House of Wolves and what we now know from like Dark Below and how that all kind of panned out, those are fairly tall orders.
Fair.
But that's one thing that I will say. I think that this is one of the most interesting expansions to kind of pop up to date. And I think overall it's definitely been worth reading over the Black Armory papers. And then also, of course, digging into the character that is Ada, finding out a little bit more about the collapse, and just so many different things that kind of fall into it. And then just realizing like the importance of the Black Armory and why they're there, and I just hope that continues. That's my biggest thing. Which I have a feeling if they keep the current team in line, it will. But that's definitely what I would have to say. They did a very good job with this expansion, not expansion, minisode, whatever they want to call it. But I've absolutely loved the lore in it for sure.
My only suggestion, if anyone's ever listening to this of importance, if you're going to make a death trap puzzle, do not install a return to orbit mechanic. Put checkpoints, please. It would have went over better.
Yeah.
Throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Oh, good lord.
All right, so this next topic, I have not run this by anyone. Ryan doesn't even know what this is. Okay. I just put it in as Man-at-Arms quick fire questions. So this has to deal directly with our audience. So earlier this week, I posted a legitimate question on Twitter.
We have an audience?
We have an audience.
Okay.
We have a following.
I'm so
we have a cult of personality. We have a cult. However you want to finish that off. Anyways. So the question I post on Twitter is, what else besides, because at that moment the only thing that was happening was Niobi Labs, and that was the great Twitter meltdown of 2019. What other topics would you like us to talk about this week? And our audience, being our audience, instead of answering a serious question seriously, answered with a bunch of inane, ridiculous, nonsensical questions. So, haha, I'm going to answer all these fuckers right now. So here we go. I did remove the names of said posters because I didn't think of it till 5 seconds ago, and now I regret it. Is everyone ready?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
All right, quick fire questions. Do you sit or stand to wipe? I sit. You want to chime in? Feel free.
Sit.
Nope. A lengthy one. Examples of the kind of Hunter Warlock shit you have to put up with as a Titan. Personal fave is popping supers on a boss before I get off melting point, and everyone just stands there thumbing their ass, not using supers. I personally do not like Floofing, Blade Barrage, and Nova Warp. 2 of those things have already been taken care of. Thank you very much. Ryan, by the way, Beard is also a Warlock mate.
Yes, thank you very much.
Whiskey or a gin? Depends on my mood.
Whiskey.
Whiskey, pretty much the go-to. However, I do like a nice gin on occasion. Which segues into bourbon review. There is only one bourbon. It is Bullet Bourbon with the orange label. Thank you. A close second would be Maker's Mark.
Yeah.
But if there's only one, then you can't qualify it with a close second.
Yeah, but we would have to call it Highlander then.
Fair. This is not really a question, more of a statement. I have found the male enhancement cores you were looking for. To which I reply, my wife now thanks you. The rise and fall of Tractor Cannon. Why is it secretly the best weapon in the game? Because reasons.
Science.
Because Bloop Cannon? I don't know.
Space magic, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Space
I don't know, but that video that you did on that one was awesome.
I didn't even have to write that. That just kind of wrote
It just
itself.
fell out, didn't it?
So I have a very large blast radius, exotic shotgun that suppresses people. What could go wrong?
Yeah.
Everything could go wrong. And breaks the physics of the game, apparently, if you're in the air or squatting and shooting up. So
And doesn't shoot many tractors.
does not shoot many tractors. Still upset about it.
It also does not shoot portals. Also very upsetting.
And tractor beams pull, not push. Does this bother anybody else but me? I watch Star Trek.
I mean, unless it's reverse polarity from getting beat around too much. I
got nothing.
all
Going
I
right
got.
back to toilet humor, toilet paper. Over or under? Over. Everyone that disagrees with me is wrong. Fucking fight me.
Yeah, you're doing life wrong at that point.
Reactions to the change in the Nightfall to include the Corrupted Strike or Bundy's reaction time in general. I think they're doing a good job. They may be listening too much to some of you fuckers. You know who the fuck you are.
Yep. I would argue that in a heartbeat.
Moving right along. Picard versus Kirk.
Picard.
Picard.
Same hair.
I was of dual minds on this. Picard in a diplomatic situation and Kirk in a combat situation.
I mean, I don't know
Could
about
you
even
straddle that
one.
fence any harder? Jesus Christ.
Would you rather fight Kirk or Picard?
He didn't give
The
you an
answer is
if or, no, it's pick one.
Not really a question of the statement. Punching stuff. It is the answer to every problem or argument was my response to this. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a horrible response, but Titan.
That's how you discipline your children.
Also, head bashing things.
Oh, I put this one in for you guys and made sure to keep it in the middle. Why are Titans and Hunters better than Warlocks? Because they don't wear nightgowns into combat.
but I don't wear a nightgown into combat.
Wear a
It is
dress.
totally-
Get it right.
It's not even a dress.
So,
It's a coat. Have you ever seen a trench coat? No? All right.
I don't know, but I got this thing. If you guys remember G.I. Joe from the 80s, I kind of like Serpentor going into combat now.
Oh, God.
Oh God, we're not supposed to ever speak about Serpentor.
God damn it.
I had blocked that from my memory, you son of a bitch. 25 years since I thought about that goddamn abortion, and they killed Duke. Spoiler alert.
They ain't, well, yeah, whatever. There's a rabbit hole.
Okay. Question. I would like to finally know if there was a second shooter on the grassy knoll during the Kennedy assassination.
There was two.
No. New ballistic studies prove Kennedy was shot from the rear, meaning that the second shooter was in a shooting position behind him as well, not in the grassy knoll. Wrap your head around that one. No idea.
That got
I didn't
way
write these.
too deep.
I researched it.
I mean, I could just reference Watchmen at this point. The comedian. What? Anyway.
Don't you dare.
All right, I'll stop.
What character in Destiny is the most Australian? I wonder who wrote that. I had to toss up between Shax and the Drifter.
The most
depending which part of
Australian?
Australia you live
I mean, maybe Banshee, because he just forgets everything. I don't know.
in. I got nothing.
I mean,
That was
The only
hard
thing,
to-
who's the most drunk?
Devon
like-
Kay comes to mind because he's probably one of the nicer ones.
Yeah, but he's expressly English.
Mhm.
I'm
Asher
just-
Mir. Good answer in chat. Asher Mir. He is a dickhead Australian.
But
I got nothing.
Yeah, no.
mm,
All right, moving on. Can dogs see farts?
God, I hope so.
Unfortunately, no, dogs cannot see farts, but they can see things that humans cannot through their sense of smell.
mhm.
What things they can see was not in the article. Sorry about that. What are you wearing? A Columbia shirt, wife beater, jeans, and secrets. And
All right,
finally,
Marcel, calm down over there.
finally, from BK Spleen, how much wood could a wood if a woodchuck could chuck wood? The answer is approximately 700 pounds or 317.5 kilograms of wood. I looked it up.
Hmm.
And that is the end of our quick fire question section. Please let's never do this again.
Oh, I think that needs to be a weekly thing from here on out.
No, please don't. No, I'm never posting that. Because God only knows what will come of it.
I think putting you in uncomfortable situations is exactly what you're good at, though.
I mean, fair.
I just speak the truth over
yeah.
here. That's like what I do.
So,
So, last week, getting back to the show, we had a topic we...
you know what we
skipped
need?
over.
We
Oh, go
need
ahead, Ryan.
for these moments where we're like, we don't know what's going on. We need like that hold music when you call and they put you on, and it's like, your call is very important to us, and it just plays that god awful jingle. That's what we need. We just need to be able to go click.
Do, 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 do,
We'll hook it up to
do.
the stream, the stream deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da.
Look, nobody said Jeopardy. Everybody respects Jeopardy. You get that out of here.
The day is mine, Trebek.
Yes, I'll take penis mightier for
I was
500.
thinking it, you son of a bitch! Will it truly mighty my penis? Well played, sir. Well played. I never thought I would actually do Connery live ever. Thank you.
Well, there you go. Hey, you're
I
welcome.
appreciate you.
You're welcome.
A topic we forgot about last week, which was like the only topic I really wanted to cover. We're coming back to now. The armor infusion system subheading. Why do I look like a dumpster fire? Go. No, I'm kidding. So I started messing with Bungie a while back.
Does anybody else hate those posts?
No.
No, the go. Like when somebody asks a question and they put go at the end, like
Go.
Go.
Discuss.
It's just like, what am I doing?
Or the other one I see a lot, I don't know if this happens to you guys on your Twitter, I get a lot of, it's your boy, whatever. And I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you are.
I don't know. You're not my boy, obviously. Because otherwise I would know you were my boy and not you to tell me that you are my boy.
When you are too involved in the meme, that's basically what that comes down to.
Alright, so why do you look like a dumpster fire?
Alright, so the armor infusion system. So there is a lot to do in Destiny. Now, if you say there's nothing to do, you are completely delusional or not doing it right. I don't know what to tell you. There's a lot to do between just level grinding. Now, when you get to the end and you get to the end of your level grinding, chasing Priam Grands and all that, I kind of get it. But while you're chasing power, you have to wear whatever is available to you. Which means you need mats. So you either need to have enough glimmer to buy mats from the spider. You have to go and farm mats, which is a whole thing of having massive amounts of disposable time, of which I do not, and nor would I use it for if I did. And then the whole masterwork core thing that is not a masterwork core anymore. So my point,
core.
when you get to power level, eventually you can more or less look like how you want to look because you're going to get duplicates and you can just infuse those and you can get the really nice chest and you can make yourself look like how you want to look. The armor pool is a lot less because all of the year one stuff doesn't exist anymore for all intents and purposes. Mm-hmm. So if they brought that back with like a fixed roll, that would be cool. Mm-hmm. You know, at least we could have some variety. I think like 2 days before that went into effect, I got my Titan to finally look like Iron Man because I built it and that was a life goal for mine. And I can still look like Iron Man, but it's not the same anymore. Is it just too much? Destiny is the fashion game. Like Ryan, I know he gives no shits.
I don't care.
He is a dumpster fuck.
I look like this. Do you? I mean, do you think I'm going to get pretty in a game for some reason?
I try not to judge. But I mean, okay, well, you like unless you're in the tower walking around and you actually care about what your character's face looks like, your armor is your identity. That's your look. That's what you see in PvP. That's what you see in the wilds. That's what you look like. Like everyone knew my D1 character after a certain point because my D1 character had the same armor for almost 2 years. Mm. So you didn't have to see my name. You just go, "That's Rick." So I don't know. It bothers me. I can't be the only one.
Here, I'm going to ask a lore question since you threw this. Is there a reason why we have the glimmer cap that we have mentioned anywhere? Because that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
No,
we have
a
magic money.
We used to have a much lower glimmer cap, however. So I'll at least throw that one out there. I don't know. I've never really realized or figured why they have the cap the way that they do. I mean, I've never really had a problem with glimmer though at this point.
No, I see people bitching about glimmer when they're grinding up. You guys mentioned the enhancement cores. Is that an issue for you guys?
Enhancement cores are my biggest problem. Yeah, just getting a hold of them has been the biggest pain.
When you mentioned it, Rick, I looked up, on the Destiny app. I have 193 sitting on my character right now.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
How about that?
I'll I'll mimic that sentiment.
I have 29 because I remembered.
I have zero. I have zero. None.
I have,
Absolutely nothing.
the only thing I use them for is guns, and that's strictly to bring a gun that I like up to level.
Hmm.
Because I have no time to masterwork armor. That is a complete and total waste to me right now. Until I have like a stupid surplus of armor I really like with stats that I like, because for some reason I keep, when you get an armor set, some of the armor sets, a completed armor set, the way it's intended, it makes no sense. It's like, okay, so I'm a Titan with 8 mobility, 4 resistance, and 2 recovery. No, no, this is the opposite of tank.
I wonder if they were drinking the night that they sat down and assigned the values to each of the sets or the pieces. Just everything is mobility, it seems like.
Hmm.
So
Depending
Well,
on which,
the
depending
visible
which one
armor
you're
is
on.
mobility.
Yeah.
I'm like, huh?
so
Isn't it where I should be the most tanky? But I don't know. It bothers me.
So, I don't know. I really have no thoughts to why you look like a dumpster fire if we're still there. So,
I mean,
as it gets worse.
yeah, I completely understand it, like, entirely. I like wait every few days just to make sure I have like 6 cores or something like that before I start to infuse a couple more things. But if I'm doing it right now, it's because I end up getting, like, I have my almost full black armory set right now for armor, and that's the only reason I've been doing anything with it, has been to throw some, like, 15 to 20 light levels higher than what I am right now into my character. And I just hit 646 tonight, for instance. Uh, but that's where, like, I'm at the moment. I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I still don't understand why Infusion has to use them. I don't recall that every single item required something similar to it in D1. It was just, here's the thing, break it down, use some glimmer and shards, and that's it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine.
would you guys agree that the economy overall in Destiny just seems broken? Or
There's way too much going on.
like, yeah, too many pieces that don't
Way
fit together?
too much going on.
I think the inclusion of all of the chips and planetary resources and everything just don't make for a good bit. I think having them for the armor would be great to have, but then otherwise I should still be earning reputation with the factions that I'm on that planet for, or otherwise, similar to how it was with D1 and the faction reputation system and so on.
That needs to come back.
Well,
Because I also had something to show for it. Now at this point, I don't have anything to really show for it. I was rank 130 with frickin' FWC, and all of that means absolutely dick in D2.
Yeah, like, did they forget who I was? Like, because we moved residences?
Yeah.
well, I mean,
Because I was like really high up in the dead orbit bureaucracy. I remember this vividly.
we were Iron Lords when we last checked in D1 too, and you don't get a real mention of that either in D2, do you?
Saladin is senile. I accept this. This is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's
Well,
stoned out of his skull, but
speaking on that point, actually, they made a very big deal out of the veteran dialogue that happened with Destiny 2. Problem is, it ended after the first campaign. Like, legitimately, it ended after the first campaign. There's a couple little things that you'll pick up on with some additionals that will be in, like, the not lost sectors, but in, like, adventures and whatnot that you might get after the red campaign is done. But in any kind of character dialogue that you have, and anything during the during, like, Osiris or even Warmind, I cannot for the life of me think of any spot that was different versus the veteran dialogue, and the and in the spots that you would find, like the PC going into it brand new. get Viru's kind of pointing out, like a couple scannables too, but that's like it. There's really nothing that they do too much with the vet dialogue, and that kind of ticks me off, miffs me a little bit. Uh, Partially great for me because I switched to playing PC anyway because it's actually good for my eyesight, but beside the point.
I was just about to ask you where you played, so.
Yeah, I was on PS4, and I get migraines kind of easily, unfortunately, and there is something funny story to add to this actually. There's something with I don't know if it's the baseline with the PS4 now at this point or what, but I can't play the system. Like, I can barely look at the thing when it comes to playing games or anything. It's not just Destiny anymore. There is something within the system that's causing it to just wig out for me, sending some kind of freaking alien code into my brain. I don't know. But I can't even watch Netflix on it anymore. I don't know if it would be solved if I go to a PS4 Pro, but there is something that's just wigging my eyes out when I look at the thing. Meanwhile, for Christmas, I was given a Nintendo Switch, and the first thing I thought of was, well, crap, I have problems with consoles now, and I'm probably going to have problems watching this thing. Not a single shred of issues. I don't get even a slight headache or eye strain or anything playing the Switch. So I know it's not my TV. I know it's not me just playing consoles. I know it has everything to do with optimization. Sony, please fix it.
So I'm going to ask the question. I'm sure the answer is probably no, but have you tried the Xbox? I know that's Rick's hangout is the Xbox, and I've never heard him complain about anything.
Yeah, I've never played it on Xbox. I also don't own one. I've never been a very big I've never really been an Xbox guy. I was tempted to think about digging into it because I know some stuff is kind of shifting that way again. But this late into the generation, there's just no reason.
No, wait, if you're gonna make the jump, jump to when they come up with something new,
Yeah, that'll be my thought at this point. I'm just gonna let it go. I feel like Microsoft has learned enough of a lesson that the next time they come out with a new system, we might actually be in a better position for them. But I don't know. That's me hoping.
Yeah, go big or go home.
Right.
So, I'll ask this question, even though I know we don't want to necessarily get into tech talk and everything. But with Microsoft basically releasing all of their first-party stuff on PC now, what is the drive to own the Xbox? If you already are bought into the Xbox One or the Xbox One X or whatever, and that's your ecosystem, that makes sense. You stay there. But going forward, what is my motivation to buy the next console? If I already know that I can get Halo and Gears and all those games on my PC, and again, this isn't me talking as a PC builder. This is just me going, what is my motivation other than price? Is probably the only answer I can come up with. Because an Xbox is going to cost you $400. A good PC is going to cost you $1,500. But what's my motivation to go buy that? Because I can get a controller, I can plug my controller into my PC.
Me being a person who doesn't have a lot of knowledge on how to deal with a computer for streaming and glitches and whatnot.
You hit it with a hammer.
Which is my solution.
Very draconian. I like it.
I turned my console on and I laugh as I watch my friends on Twitch. Oh, it crashed. Yeah, my console don't crash, bro. I don't. These things don't.
You have an Xbox, yes, it does crash.
No, well, I mean, Destiny has crashed a few times.
So I just
I'm playing Red Dead now. It'll be good.
I just asked the question just because what I don't understand, the thinking behind. Here's all of the games that would make you spend the $400, $500 on my system, but we're just going to throw it over to here for you guys also. I mean, I get the driving point is software. You make more money on software than you do on hardware. But if I want you in my ecosystem, how do I get you in my ecosystem?
That's what I've kind of been facing the last kind of several years, if you will, as well. Mostly because I don't know. I'm kind of in the same boat as you are, too, because I've been playing on computers since I was very young anyway. Sony always fit my bill because I liked the games that they came out with, so that's why I kind of gravitated towards playing on console for them.
Okay.
But PC's always been kind of like my mainstay. Uh, Meanwhile, yeah, like most of the first party games, I'm in the same boat, similar agreement. I can get a good majority of them on PC now, and I don't see much of a reason to bother with it. But that's also partly because I need a PC so I can do content. I need it for the sake of better recording and whatnot. I mean, I spent on a good 4K monitor and a GTX 1080. Like, I want to make sure I can play for a good while without any kind of problems. Uh, but I know that it's also expensive. Like, that's the major thing. I think it's still a question of how you can effectively get me to go to an Xbox when Sony had been killing it for pretty much the entire console generation on exclusives for as long as they were. Like, that's my major question. Because for me, the Xbox One never really like popped up as having anything major, and now coming towards the end of this console shelf life, I feel like it's kind of in the same position, uh, which is ironic for several games that are going to be coming up because they're being developed for these consoles and not for the next ones, which could feasibly even come out next year.
So,
I was Sony forever and die hard about it in all honesty until Halo.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, Halo is a big reason I ended up getting like a Xbox One, the original Xbox, not this Xbox
The
One
OG
that isn't
Xbox?
the Xbox One. Thank you.
bring it
That's a
down.
good way to put it. Yeah. Well, no, that would be the 360. Uh, the OG I absolutely adored, except for that controller because that was stupid.
Oh, the Duke?
Uh,
The dinner plate?
yeah,
Yeah.
El Duce.
I have unfortunately hands that are not befitting that controller.
I don't think any of us have hands that.
No, I have a hard enough time sometimes with
I
the.
would say El Duce into the Crucible now.
Oh,
That's
if
that's
you
fine.
if you don't mind jumping on this tangent real quick, I'll tell you a quick story that I've heard, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher it. So remember, this is my memory of somebody else telling this story. But when they were trying to launch the original OG Xbox in Japan, the guy Seamus Blackley, who was the big head honcho at Xbox, took that controller into a Japanese publisher and set that thing down on his lap and says, you hold it on your lap and that's how you play it, and that's what this thing is designed for. So the Japanese man takes the controller, sets it on his lap, and immediately falls on the floor. It's too big for his lap because Seamus is a American, bigger American male, and the Japanese are smaller. Just happened to be that guy was a smaller man, and he goes, nope. And that was the entire pit. They were like, no, we're done. We're not building games for you. So anyways, you were saying about the Xbox.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna say that's the biggest thing though. Like I've just had I don't know. I've had so many problems looking into what they have developed on a whole versus what I can just get on PC. Uh, I I think the other thing too that I keep coming back to is how my library for even Steam has held up as long as it has over the course of the last, over a decade at this point. And I can still go back and play a good majority of those titles without any kind of issue or needing to run like DOSBox or anything like that, or really finagling with my backwards compatibility stuff. Most of it just runs completely fine right out of the box, and I can sit down, click the button that says go, and it goes. The amount of like fiddling with and making sure it's running proper is really going out the door. I find especially if you use like an NVIDIA product, mostly because of most of the sensing that they kind of have or intuitive knowledge that's going on with your machine and what it can handle, versus what the developer and the developer of the game has basically already informed NVIDIA about, which is why NVIDIA goes through driver updates like freaking they're going out of style.
Yeah, every couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm always blown away by how many they have to go through. Uh, but that's one thing that makes it so that they're a little bit on par, a little bit more on par with a good majority of consoles, is because they constantly get those version updates. It's a lot of the guesswork just gets thrown right out of the window. And if there's something that you hate, then you've got more customization, and I've never seen a problem with that. But that's I don't know. Again, that's an old time PC gamer that has always enjoyed how PC has ran. In fact, I can go back and look at a good majority of my library, like I said, and just play that. That's why it's hard for me to even dig into most consoles, and really why Nintendo has been about the only console or even handheld developer. Granted, that's a unfair topic all the same. That I've even really cared about for the majority of things, just because their stuff is unique, it's different, and still appeals to me. That's the entire reason I still buy a Nintendo.
So,
I mean, somebody has to.
I mean, sure.
all right.
I own 4 games, and one of them will never be turned on ever again. We will not say its name.
Well, what's wrong with the GameCube now? Come on.
Oh no, it was Sea of Thieves.
Oh, okay.
That was fun for 10 minutes.
That so that was a question I actually wanted to ask last week too. I figure I'd throw that out now. Have you ever guys bought a game just strictly based on the hype and then got it and Rick, I already know your answer is going to be Sea of Thieves, but felt like as soon as you got it in, plugged it in, you were like, oh my god, I just wasted a ton of money. Got burned on this one.
No, I honestly got into Sea of Thieves because D2 was so bad. It's like, I don't have Destiny. All I play is Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna say I think that was that way for some people with recent memory, going from Destiny to Monster Hunter World.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people that picked into that one, and I am not saying that I hate the game because it's a very good game in my mind, and I've been a Monster Hunter fan for a long time.
You own the T-shirt, literally.
I'm gonna say it's only on my chest. But for a lot of people, like, they didn't know what they were getting into.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's what exactly had happened. Everybody was like, "Oh my god, Monster Hunter World is going to be so good and so great," and, yeah. And I'm just like, I hope y'all realize you're in for like a tough game that's like actually not what you're describing at all,
Mm-hmm.
like at all.
I mean, isn't that the story with the Division? I mean, that's
Anthem.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, assuming that Anthem follows suit with it all. I had the same thing though with Warframe. There's another big one too that had come out recently that fell into the same kind of bat. Like this last couple of years has kind of followed that same principle. It feels like all you have to do is really have either good marketing, good PR, a really good angle overall, and you sell a ton of games, and then there you go. I could think of like No Man's Sky as being another really good representation of this, up until, of course, the recent next update that ended up coming out, and people are like, "Oh my god, it's amazing now." There's just been so many of those types of games that have been released, where it's like, this game just has like a lot of time before it's actually good. You're just playing like the pre-alpha or something at this point. Yeah, a lot of games I can think of on PC that were like that too, and why Steam is an actual dumpster fire on occasion. Meanwhile, I'm thinking back actually on the opposite side of this for a question for you guys. But what were you gonna say, Rick? Sorry.
I was gonna say, well, the only game I really got into for just experimenting and enjoyed was Rainbow Six Siege.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I enjoyed it is probably very expected of me, but not typical of most people. I was way behind the skill gap because it's all PvP. There is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a game, but nobody plays that shit. Kind of like Halo. It's like, yeah, you play it once and then you move on to PvP. But I mean, I was so far behind on the skill gap. It was like, okay, I had to find a guy or a couple guys, and then it was like playing chess to me. It's like, okay, so I know I can't just run and gun and not shoot these guys. So where do they think that I'm going to be if I set up this, this, and this?
Right.
So I'm gonna not stand there, and I just wait and checkmate. It was fun for me because I was just playing mind games on it. But you could honestly pay it forever, but it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So, but I mean, it was something really simple, but it was just like I wasted 100 hours playing that fucking game quickly.
Yeah, that's actually where my question was going to lead to, was when you didn't get involved in the hype and then all of a sudden you played a game and it was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Where was this my whole life?
Oh, I returned Red Dead because
yeah,
of that.
Right.
I mentioned that last week. I quit at the epilogue. I'm like, if I'm on a Destiny podcast, I have to send this back to GameFly. Right? Because I will just be in the wilds screaming as people watch me stalk deer. Are you going to do the mission? This is the mission. We're going to the trapper.
Actually, exactly what's happening to me right now with Breath of the Wild since I started playing that. Ugh. My major one was Doom 2016.
You felt like you got let down from that? I've heard nothing but wonderful reviews of that game.
I wasn't gonna play it at all. Like at all. I looked at it and I said, no, they're gonna conform Doom into something terrible that I will never want to look at or play ever again and want to completely erase it from my mind. And meanwhile, somebody was like, no, you should pick it up because I know you're like in a lull right now with some stuff. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll spend $60 on this thing and play it.
It's a tomb, bro. You can't go
80 hours later, and I still want to keep playing it.
I'm not hearing a problem here. I mean,
no, it's not a problem. It's it's regret of my own for being like, what was I thinking that I didn't want to actually like buy into this thing? And
aside from I heard you make a comment in one of your videos where you said, I would like to be able to do this full time, and if you're playing Doom, then you can't do your job full time. But
right,
other than that,
right,
not hearing a problem.
Well, I mean, it's like, well, I know, because I follow Beard on Twitter. He's a friend of mine. He's having the same problem I have. It's like, there's shit I would like to create. There's videos I would like to create. I would also like to play games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And especially when I make the kind of videos I make, where I make videos about shit you get in a game, specifically like weapons and armor. I have to first obtain those to be able to make a video.
Well, I'm going to say in between dealing with YouTube's bullshit and dealing with, family matters, along with also sitting down to review Grimoire research notes and whatnot, along with job, and still trying to find some time to engage in the hobby that I enjoy. I'm very happy at this point that I am still single because... or to some degree, that I would not be able to manage as well as I would need to. I guess, that might be a little bit too far, but just like, I'd happily be in a relationship if I could be, but like, it's just a matter that there's so many things that are going on. Like, holy crap.
Wait till the real shit starts going on.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, and like, I'm seeing stuff with life and other stuff that's happening around, and life and things I can't control, and idiots that happen to be running some kind of country. I don't know. Anyway, just don't mind me. I can.
Can you imagine? This is not anything to do with Destiny or gaming. Can you imagine you win a national champion, you show up at the White House, and you get a fucking Big Mac? Just throwing it out.
You know what?
Leave that.
That sounds like a really good day to me, though.
I I had a Big Mac literally on the way to the show.
Just say, you know.
Yeah.
This is what I worked for my whole life, and there's that fucking clown.
All right.
Actually, I saw Burger King did a funny bit on that. Actually,
Please,
they
Yeah, please share.
please.
oh right. Hey,
I mean, we're already off the
find it and
rails
go
and
on
we're
mute here for a bit.
we're an
Yeah,
hour
we
and
can-
20 in and we're off the rails. So what the fuck?
Oh, okay. Well, here let's get back on topic. Went exactly where I thought it was gonna go. So one topic from this week at Bungie: Nova Warp and Blade Barrage is getting a nerf, which is fine. But everything else more or less is getting a buff. Has everyone read this?
I'm completely unaware of this. So
Yes, they buffed like every super and have changed some things.
I mean, Dawnblade totally needed a buff.
I mean, I'm not against it. I'm not against it at all. Fist of Havoc got a buff for some reason. It's like you have more Havoc in your fist. I
Yeah,
am perfectly okay with this.
right.
But well, anyway, when you go and you read the notes, Ryan, in the 12, when you get past the initial, this is buff, this is buff, this is buff. Some of the skill trees have been changed because they were underused.
okay.
I really don't know about like any hunter or warlock things that happen besides the golden gun thing, which I think is just like the scariest fucking thing in the world. So basically, if you use the 6-shot golden gun and you get a kill, you get another bullet.
Yeah,
Oh, is there a time limit on this, or does this
Yes.
just
yeah.
continuously?
There's still a time.
Oh,
limit.
okay.
It's the duration
'Cause
of the normal super, but you get another fucking bullet.
God damn.
That sucks.
So they just basically put a win button in. Got it.
I'm gonna say, especially with it being fan fired, like, welcome to the last word meta a little early.
It's like D1 all over again, but different.
Yeah.
It's fine. Scared to death of golden guns in D1.
Right.
You hear that thing pop and just run.
But I mean, you guys would have to look up your own perspective subclasses because I saw mine and like Fist of Havoc got buffed. So actually now the higher you go, the more damage it causes. And there's like 3 tiers of damage, which is something I've wanted for a while. Cause I thought this was really supposed to originally do, so they buffed that. But some of the skill trees that were not being used, they've changed entirely. So the one I caught mine was Code of the Juggernaut, which is not used as a striker titan, which is what I actually played through the vanilla campaign with because it gave you a little bit of a heal. You couldn't shoulder charge. But when you did your super, if you killed stuff, you got a longer super. Well, they kind of reworked this now, from what I understood. Was basically you can smash like a titan, but basically you are the Juggernaut now, and you can run through and shoulder charge almost indefinitely during your super. So I was like, this is my new PvE build.
So
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to actually play around with any of the ones for Warlock. I know Nova Warp got tuned pretty hard to be. I think it was a little bit of a tighter bubble because even I would say that like the distance on that thing is ridiculous. But that is one of the biggest things that I know had kind of switched out and changed. But yeah, the Dawnblade having like the extended time, I was just like, oh, okay. It's like we hear your problems with Sleeper Simulant, and thus we have buffed Dawnblade duration. Pardon?
Makes sense.
Yeah, I gotta
Well
say
said.
it just was like one of those things where I don't know. It didn't. It came out of the absolute blue because I knew that they ended up doing some reworking with it earlier, and they had extended the time on it then, and they had given it where I think if it was like a bottom tree, when you killed somebody, it would give even more super back from that. So I'm just like, so you're just giving it even more duration on top of that? Like, you still think it's not long enough? Okay.
Everyone needed this. Everyone asked for this.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, not long enough just adds to Log's joke on, you know, the Don Dong. But anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Self-immolated warlock throwing flaming dongs. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Cheers.
All right.
I'm just hoping Nova Bomb doesn't get like more.
It would be great if we actually had the old Nova Bomb back. Let me tell you what.
Miss the old D1
Like the D1 Nova Bomb.
Look, just for like the actual coverage, because right now the map coverage for that move is terrible. The fact that it doesn't, if you could also use Shatter on it too, that would be great, and not like Shatter like they have with the current one. Like I don't want this follow bomb with the three of them just to right like that. Yeah, that was great. I don't know. I would still probably be Void and still be Nova Bomb this whole time if they had done that class right, because I really feel they didn't.
Getting nostalgic and teary-eyed for D1 now.
I mean, a little bit. It comes and goes for me. I still think that D2 is in a better place than D1 was, but with a few exceptions, of course, kind of riddled in there. But I don't know. I just really feel like they missed. They dropped the ball on Nova Bomb. There was no other way I could really say that. Yeah, I don't know. Just opinions.
There. Any other?
I don't know about any of this, so this is interesting to me. I'm like, go on.
No.
I know none of this.
Man. All right.
Oh. Freaking Obsidian Mind. Oh, why did I have to remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I've heard of this one.
I just got sad. Alright. So, like, Shards of Galanor. Alright. Small rant, mini rant.
Go.
Here we go.
Have fun.
Shards of Galanor, of course, basically can recoup, like, an entire super bar, no matter, like, where you're at. Either in Crucible, if you nail, like, I think 3 kills or something like that, you almost get a full super back. Almost the same thing with PvE, where you're just like, oh, a group of enemies, let me just throw my daggers down onto the freaking ground. That's what Obsidian Mind was back in the day for Warlocks. And the fact that we kind of have that with the Skull of Dire Ahamkara, but it only refills like a quarter of the bar, is a complete and utter, like, spit in the face to Warlocks when Hunters have Shards of Galanor that activate instantaneously and refill more of a bar. Get out of here with that bullshit. Just go.
Wait, so what you're telling me is so you use a super and you get some of your super back, and Hunters use a super and they get almost all of their super back.
Yes!
And I have to listen to you guys' bullshit about one-hit shoulder charge? Is that what you're telling me right now?
I mean, look, I'm sitting here using
Really?
just to try to make up for a bit of a difference on it. I've been using Geomag stabilizers, and those things are wonderful when you're running an arc subclass. But you know what? They don't even come close to frickin' Obsidian Mind. I used to be able to, in Hive dungeons, throw one Nova Bomb, wait like half a second, still in the air, and throw another one, and it would just rain orbs. I was just an absolute orb creation machine. And that was all pre-Storm Trance. Because after Storm Trance came out, that's where it all went.
No. So.
And these are the people I have to listen to complaining. Now I understand Twitter better. Thank you.
Look, you.
Do you really understand Twitter better?
Never did.
Nobody understands Twitter. Let's be honest.
I'm gonna start
Nobody
now.
understands how the algorithm works. Nobody understands how people interact with one another. Nobody understands how YouTube works in the same manner. It's machine learning, and it's all screwed.
I understand exactly how YouTube works. It does not.
It doesn't.
So let me get this straight. I don't even get alerts for the people that I subscribe to and clicked I want alerts for.
I went through my entire sub feed one day just to see like what had happened with some of them, and there were, I think, like 10 guys that I know for a fact I used to always get notifications from when their videos popped up. They were set to no notifications given to me whatsoever, and I like rabidly click on their videos. I'm like, YouTube, what makes you think I don't want to watch these people? What?
I think we've talked ourselves to a standstill in the words of a good friend of mine.
Speechless.
Oh, well,
man.
all right. Well, Beard, if the people would like to find you, where can they find you, sir?
You can find me on that one broken platform called Twitter at Beard_Grizzly. You can also do the same on YouTube, finding me on the second broken platform. I technically have a Twitch with the same thing, Beard_Grizzly. That's about the only half-working platform, and I'm never on it. I might get back into it at some point. I don't know. I'm still debating on that for this year. If I ever get to go full-time, expect I'm going to use that a lot more, probably. But for the time being, probably not as much. Anyway, those are the 3 major places that I am at. I do also have Discord, if you would like the link for that at one point or another. You can find that in the description of any of my YouTube videos.
And we'll drop it on the description of this one.
That'll work too.
We do that.
What's
Ryan.
that? Oh man, I'm
Go.
easy to find.
Where
I'm
can
on
they
air
find you?
PC1 on Twitter, and that's pretty much it. So Rick,
And-
where they at for you?
You can find me on Twitter at man_@_arms2112, which will bring you to anything. And the Destiny Unfiltered podcast does have a Twitter. It's really weird and convoluted because Destiny is used by a lot of questionable persons. Twitter. It's out there. We have a logo. But folks, that is our show for this week. I want to thank you all for coming out. I want to thank my friend Beard Grizzly for coming out and
Yes,
talking
thank you.
to us about nothing.
Yeah,
And,
pleasure as always.
Stand by for a raid.
Are we gonna actually raid somebody?
We are, if I can remember how to do this. It says this channel is intended for mature audience, so I think I did it. Let's go.
That works.